Yeah, I'll put it. Thank you. Bell supposed to come? I think so, yeah. Yeah, for us, she's out of town.
The other one too. CUW is gonna come. Yeah, I'll be over there.
Notice of a public meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Brownsville pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice is hereby given that the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas has scheduled a regular meeting on Thursday, July 11th, 2024 at 5:30 PM in the Commission Chambers on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall, Old Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas, 78520. Pledge of Allegiance. Updates and comments.
The only updates are that on this particular presentation for the items in the public hearings, you'll be seeing additional information that hasn't been presented before. It was a request, or it was information that was added upon the request from City Commission and City Manager. We will be showing screenshots of the thoroughfare plan map, just to let you know if there's any improvements to roadways to the subject property that's getting rezoned. Additionally, they requested that we sent out every zoning case to our multimodal department, which oversees the thoroughfare plan, and our engineering and public works department, which oversee drainage facilities, so that they could provide comments on drainage improvements and on thoroughfare improvements. So there will be a couple of additional slides per item.
So that's going to happen every month.
Yes, from now on.
I do want to have roll call.
David Ramirez.
Eliza Vasquez,
David Betancourt.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on June 6th, 2024.
do I hear a motion?
So move.
We have first,
I'll second.
we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Items for individual consideration. Consideration and action to grant a subdivision waiver for DG San Jose subdivision, subdivision waiver for Las Tres Cruces subdivision, a subdivision waiver for Garza Estate subdivision, and a subdivision waiver for El Refugito subdivision, all located in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Brownsville from the municipal plating process and solely proceeding with Cameron County jurisdiction.
So for all these items 1 through 4, staff does recommend the granting of a subdivision waiver, given that they are all in the ETJ and they will be platted under Cameron County jurisdiction.
Can you go back? Let me look at it just a little slower. The second one? So where is that?
This one is in one of the arms that makes up City of Brownsville city limits that extends all pretty much close to Rio Hondo. It is quite north, close to FM 106. It's actually just south of FM 106 in the extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Oh, I see. I see center line right
Yes.
now. Okay, I know where that is. And the next one?
This one's Garza Estates. This is on Paloma Blanca and southmost. Well, Paloma Blanca is the fronting roadway. However, this property is close to the southernmost curve on Southmost Boulevard. And this final one is off of FM 1732. close to the Natural Wildlife Refuge.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have first motion to approve consent.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Consent agenda items. Consideration and action, Sophia subdivision final plat, Immobile Estates subdivision final plat, St. Ives Alton Glore subdivision final plat, Veterans International Trade Center Phase 4 replat number 3 final plat, Avanti Legacy Alliance subdivision preliminary plat, and VS at Alton Glore Phase 1 preliminary plat.
So all of these subdivisions are found complete or approved, subject to some final details that are still pending for their absolute completion, whether it be signatures or red line comments.
Questions? We have a motion.
So move to accept the consented agenda items 1 through 6. I'll second that.
We have a first and a second motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Public hearings. Public hearing and action on ordinance number 235-2024-021-S to request a specific use permit in a traditional neighborhood corridor zoning designation to allow a used car lot for lots 9, 10, 15, and 16, Block 75, Hardin's addition to the city of Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas, located at 1320 Expressway 77, Brownsville, Texas, 78520.
So this request is for a specific use permit. The base zoning is going to remain intact. The current zoning for the property is traditional neighborhood corridor. The purpose for this procedure is to establish a used car lot, and the property is fronting Expressway 77. It actually lies between 13th and 14th Street. This is the 200-foot buffer map. There were 21 mailouts and 0 written opposition. This is a zoning map. What predominates is traditional neighborhood corridor, and there's a traditional neighborhood to the west and traditional neighborhood mixed use to the south. This is a proposed site plan consisting of an office, spaces for inventory and client parking. This is just an aerial view to show the reference of where the property is located. And as mentioned, these are comments from our Public Works Department. Currently, there are no foreseen road improvements that are expected by the engineering department on adjacent streets. Given that the site is under half an acre, they will not require on-site detention. However, they do have to provide a grading plan to ensure that there's no ponding on the property and that it drains out towards the fronting roadway. And again, as mentioned, water draining from the site must be routed towards the existing drainage system. An example that they give is an existing inlet on 13th Street and frontage. The multimodal transportation department mentions that we can allow uniformity on the frontage road. No change in right-of-way is required. Basically, no additional right-of-way has to be dedicated. Sidewalks of pedestrian facilities that are required are the typical 5-foot sidewalks, and no trails affect the property, nor are they in the immediate area. And this is just a screenshot of the thoroughfare map that is administered by the multimodal department, showing that 13th and 14th streets are both secondary arterials, given that they're major thoroughfares that enter the downtown of the city. And so under the comprehensive plan and future land use plan, the request is not consistent. However, staff remains neutral and will follow the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the specific use permit to allow a used car lot in the mentioned zoning designation. We just want to point out that if this item is approved by the commission this evening, it will be subject to these regulations, which have already been conveyed to the developer. From our conversation with them, they have agreed to comply. Any questions?
There are other used car lots in that same neighborhood, isn't there?
Not in that particular block. There are some about 2 blocks down towards the International Bridge. And there's, let me see if it's within the, yeah. So if you can see on the block of basically 12th Street and 11th Street, that's where there are some car lots that are already established.
Can we go back to the plan for the site? That one. Am I mistaken? That's only a 6,000 square foot lot, right?
That is correct.
That's awfully tiny for a used car lot.
Yes, and that's why, for example, we point out that there's particular requirements that they would have to abide by if the item is approved this evening. For example, all the loading or unloading of any of the inventory vehicles would have to be done within the property. No, nothing to where a lot of the times the business model requires that an 18-wheeler be parked outside blocking a lane and vehicles be unloaded. The requirement is that everything be done within the property to prevent any obstacles within the roadway and to prevent any hazards.
I just don't understand how that's possible on a 6,000 square foot lot.
I mean, there's some that have been approved in the past and have been good in complying. They don't use the 18-wheeler to unload. They actually have to bring them in one by one. And that's how the unloading or the distribution of inventory vehicles into the property is done, but it's less efficient for the developer than compared to the 18-wheeler where several vehicles can be unloaded at one time.
So there's a commercial site on the corner, which used to be the coffee shop.
Yes.
And then on the other side, is it a house?
It used to be a residence, but right now it is a pet grooming business. So it's no longer a residence, it's actually a business.
They be doing repair work?
What's that?
Will they be doing repair work, mechanical work there on site?
No, that's actually something that's not allowed. They can, let's say, wash the vehicles, maybe detail them, but actually do mechanical work or even body work that would require something, a more intense zoning designation. And it would be required for everything to be done within an enclosed area to prevent any nuisances from escaping the perimeter of the property.
Any other questions?
Martin, wasn't there somebody that came here not too long ago asking for the same between 12th and 14th on frontage?
Right, it was actually a block down.
Where?
Yeah, it was.
Before or after?
It's actually, if you look at this image, if your eyes move towards the top left-hand corner, there's several vacant properties on the frontage of the expressway, and then there's one rooftop with concrete area. That's the one that was brought for a car lot. They ended up not doing a car lot. They're selling paint, automotive paint and body shop accessories. It actually became a retail use. It's not an actual car lot.
And that was 6,000 square feet also?
Yes.
Any idea how many cars, how many how much inventory they plan to have. And
Well, the inventory is limited to the size of the property and to the size of the office. In this case, they are in compliance with the amount of parking spaces. They wouldn't be able to exceed more than what they have shown here in parking. So they wouldn't be able to put inventory within that 24-foot drive. It would just be whatever is limited or that would be able to be accommodated by the parking spaces.
Questions? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address this topic, you can come forward now. Yes, sir. Can you come to the microphone and give us your name, please?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Vicente Robles. I'm actually the one of the owners of the property that's in question right now. I just came, I just wanted to answer any questions that if anyone has for the commissioners. I also took photos of some of the surrounding properties that are there. As he was mentioning, on the right-hand side of the lot used to be Brownsville Coffee Shop #1. On the left-hand side, there was a residential property, but over the past few months, since I've owned it, the land in question, we've noticed that the property on the left-hand side, the residential it seems abandoned. They had a dog there, and the dog died on the premises there due to malnutrition. It didn't seem like the owners, it looks like they abandoned it. And then right next to that property on the residential, there's a plaza where there's like a T-Mobile and there's like other things like that on the other corner. So, but I have photos, and we just want to put a used car line here. Yes.
Do you have any questions for Vicente? Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate your being here.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
What is the wish of the commission?
So move to close public hearing.
We have first,
I'll second.
we have first and second motion to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second motion to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Public hearing and action on ordinance number 235-2024-022 to rezone from residential single-family, residential transition, and commercial corridor to residential transition to allow a townhome development for 49.829 acres, being all out of lots 15, 16, and 17, and out of lots 12, 13, and 14, Las Lagunas subdivision, reserve areas A and B, 0.285 acre out of Plaza Boulevard, and Lot 1, Block 1, North Paredes Business Plaza, Cameron County, Texas, located at Dr. Hugh Emerson Road, Brownsville, Texas, 78526.
So this zoning case is related to one of the subdivisions that was approved under the consent agenda item section, which was Villa Side Alto and Glore. The developers wanting to rezone the property to residential transition to be able to accommodate the proposed density that the townhome development will create. Currently, the property has multiple zonings. It has residential single family, residential transition, and commercial corridor. So basically, they're changing all those from all those zoning designations into just the residential transition R3, again, to be able to accommodate this proposed development. and the property is fronting Dr. Hugh Emerson Road. There were this is a 200-foot buffer map. There were 57 mailouts and 0 written opposition. And from looking at this aerial map, you're probably asking, how are they going to access the property? Because it seems like almost if it's landlocked. There will be a large access point. And when I say large, typically an access point is created by a two-lane road and ingress and egress. This one will be made up of 4 lanes. Additionally, they're proposing an alternative access point through the road that's established alongside the commercial plaza that's right on the corner of Paredes and Dr. Hugh Emerson.
So when you're saying they're proposing a 4-lane,
Yes, for the entrance.
where
Or-
is the entrance going?
The entrance is off of Alton Glore, basically through the green space that's directly to the east of the plaza.
Mhm.
That's where the entrance is going to be shown. So I can actually go back and give you, if this is the actual development that they're proposing.
Oh, okay.
If you can see towards the top of the page how
I see.
it's a bit wider to be able to accommodate 2 lanes going in and 2 lanes coming out, and then it'll narrow down to have more narrow streets and reduce traffic speeds.
So they own a portion of that green space, or are they
Yes.
getting,
They own all the way to
Alton
Alton
Glore?
Glore,
Okay.
but they did not want to rezone that portion yet because that portion is destined to be commercial.
commercial?
Right now, they want to focus just on the residential
They
portion.
do own that white area on the northern part of that subdivision.
What's that?
So they do own that northern
Yes.
part of that subdivision.
Yes, all the way to Alton Glore.
Got it.
Are they going to be using that little pathway that I just saw right there through the shopping center?
Yes,
They will be using it.
they are proposing, they're calling it an emergency access route in the event that there's an emergency. And that way, emergency vehicles can also access through there, or if there's need, let's say for an evacuation.
So it's not going to be closed down. It's going to be open for public
Right.
to come and go.
Right, and that's something that we did ask because right now, with their application, both on the plat and on the zoning, there wasn't any sort of agreement provided to use that access that's owned by the plaza. So that's something that they're working on.
Yeah, because they have an HOA there at that, but it is Business Plaza. And I imagine that they would not be too happy with traffic going back and forth through their plaza.
I believe they already have something worked out, but we need something formal.
So that road that's there for the plaza, is that a public road or private road?
It's, I believe it's a private road.
Private road. Okay.
And so this is the zoning map, and as you can see, it has multiple zonings: commercial corridor, residential, single family, and residential transition. There's the ETJ to the south and to the east. There's commercial corridor and regional center to the west. And just another aerial view map showing the location of the property. And comments from Public Works, there are no right-of-way improvements that are expected by the department. The site will require drainage improvements. A preliminary drainage report and drainage calculations have been reviewed by the engineering department, so they have been proactive in that sense. Their proposed improvements should not create additional flooding. A drainage report has also been submitted to BPUB and Drainage District Number 1 for review. From multimodal, they do mention that FM 3248, which is Dr. Hugh Emerson, does require 120-foot right-of-way dedication in total. So that would mean that on their side, there would have to be 60 feet of dedicated right-of-way. I believe that there already is. If there isn't, it'll probably be an additional dedication of 10 feet. Because in that particular section, the right-of-way width does vary a little bit. On the urban local roadways, those require 50-foot right-of-way dedication. Basically, that's just them saying that for any local street, the minimum width required, if it's gonna be a public road, is 50 feet. All roadways or all public right-of-ways, will require a 5-foot sidewalk. Commercial, commercial buildings, and this is, more than adding a comment for the future development along, Dr. Hugh Emerson. Commercial buildings will require the installation of bike racks for residents, and there are no trails in the immediate area. And this is the thoroughfare plan, though the portion of Alton Glore is considered primary arterial, the same for FM 3248, which is Dr. Hugh Emerson. It requires 120-foot right-of-way, and FM 1847, which is Paredes Line Road, also requires 120-foot right-of-way, but Paredes in particular does not affect the property because it's not directly abutting it. So this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan. Staff does recommend the approval to rezone from residential single-family R1, R3, and commercial corridor to residential transition R3 for the entire property.
Questions for Martin? Ladies and gentlemen, there is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address this topic, you can come forward at this time.
So moved to close public hearing.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second motion to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to approve staff recommendation to change the rezoning to residential tradition R3.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second motion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Public hearing and action on ordinance number 235-2024-023 to rezone from residential estate to light industrial to allow warehousing and logistics for the east 5 acres of the southwest 15 acres of the west 35.35 acres in Lot 4, Block 109, El Jardín Re-subdivision, Share 29, Espiritu Santo Grant, Cameron County, Texas, located at 5871 Boca Chica Boulevard, Brownsville, Texas 78521.
So the current zoning for this property is residential estate. And I want to point out that the original request was to rezone to light industrial, given the business model that was explained to staff, which was warehousing and logistics. However, it appears that the property owners have modified the business model a little bit, and they're here to answer any questions. And this new business model might potentially fit in a zoning designation that is not as intense as light industrial. So you could potentially choose to grant them something inferior to light industrial, for example, regional center, if you wish to do so. So this property is fronting Boca Chica Boulevard. It's right across the airport. This is a 200-foot buffer map. There were 14 mailouts and 0 written opposition. It is a 5-acre tract. There is a residential property to the east, and there's some residences and some businesses on the west side. And like I said, to the south, there's the airport. This is the zoning map. The zoning is sort of split half and half, with the airport is being light industrial, and there's residential estate to the east and the west. There's also residential single family, residential suburban to the west, and agriculture to the north. And this is just an aerial view of the property. From Public Works, no improvements are expected by engineering. This site will require on-site detention because it is greater than half an acre. And so this on-site detention will have to drain towards Boca Chica Boulevard. And engineering drainage requirements should prevent future flooding. From the multimodal perspective, Boca Chica Boulevard requires 120-foot right-of-way in total, which already exists on this thoroughfare. Guayito Road, which is, let me just go back. It's a small road that, it's a very old road that's small. It was never developed by the city. Right now it exists as basically a caliche road. However, it is a dedicated public right-of-way. And if it were to ever be improved, it would require the maximum, the minimum width of 50 feet. The sidewalks on Boca Chica should be undisturbed because they are existing. If the developer at the time of construction were to remove the sidewalk or damage it, they would have to replace it to a usable condition. And it would have to be a 5-foot sidewalk. Guayito Road, which is to the north, whenever it gets developed, it would have to also be improved along with the 5-foot sidewalk. There are no trails immediately affecting the property. However, there is a planned multi-use path across Boca Chica Boulevard, basically running along the frontage of the airport. And as mentioned, it doesn't affect the property, and therefore no actual connection is required from their side of the thoroughfare. No, it runs Boca Chica, but Guayito Road actually ends right where the property ends on the north portion.
So it doesn't really have frontage on White?
No.
Okay.
And so this is the screenshot of the thoroughfare plan. Minnesota Avenue is considered a secondary arterial, which requires 110-foot right-of-way. However, it doesn't affect the property because it's not directly abutting it. There are proposed sidewalks along Minnesota, which are 5 feet in width. There's also a proposed trail system along Minnesota, which again doesn't affect the property because it doesn't directly abut it. On Boca Chica Boulevard, it's a primary arterial that requires 120-foot of right-of-way dedication, which already exists at this particular juncture. And there's a shared multi-use pathway, as was also mentioned by the multimodal department, along the south side of the thoroughfare. And so the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan. However, the original petition of light industrial, staff recommends denial given that it's next to some residences. However, as I mentioned, the property owners are here to answer any questions or explain the modified business model that they're proposing, and perhaps allowing it to fit in a more or a less intense zoning designation. Questions?
Any questions for Martin? We'd like to hear from the owners.
Yes, hello. My name is Carlos. Is it okay if I talk in Spanish?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, mi esposa habla más español que yo. Somos los dueños. Estábamos pidiendo primero hacer la rezonificación para Light Industrial. Tenemos un cliente potencial que tiene una bodega de logística que está en Harlingen y él actualmente vive en Brownsville, pero no consiguió una bodega aquí. Tiene una en Harlingen. Cuando platiqué con él me dice, si vas a hacer una bodega yo te la rento. Te rento la mitad. Me comenta que lo que principalmente ellos hacen, dice, nosotros recibimos 1 o 2 trailers al día, se descargan, se guarda el material, una empresa de México nos pide material, viene un trailer, se carga y se manda para allá. Entonces, no hay mucho movimiento. Pensábamos que podíamos hacerlo sin problema, que fuera Light Industrial, ya que las propiedades residenciales que están por un lado, nada más son 2 casas en realidad. Es una casa con una bodega que tiene equipo pesado, y hay otra casa que está que está casi siempre deshabitada, son las personas que viven en el norte. Y atrás tenemos una iglesia que actualmente tiene un food bank. Ellos reciben más o menos una vez a la semana, reciben un tráiler con comida y una vez a la semana o cada 15 días tienen una fila como de 300 carros que a veces camina desde Boca Chica, Minnesota, entra por Wayito Road y el terreno era de la iglesia. Entonces salían por el medio del terreno hacia la Boca Chica, los 300 carros. Entonces hay algo que actualmente ya tiene mucho tráfico. Supimos que estaba un poco denegado por el tráfico. Entonces, no vemos, tienen años haciendo esto y pues no vemos algo muy diferente. La idea de lo que estamos pensando hacer son unos dibujos que hicimos, los hice yo, no soy arquitecto, no soy muy buen dibujante, pero hago lo mejor que puedo. Pero la idea es que sea una bodega que esté al ras del piso, no va a ser una bodega que esté elevada a 48 pulgadas para camiones, porque no se necesita que sea algo que esté elevado y que esté con mucho tráfico. Pues, principalmente lo que nosotros era lo que queríamos era hacer eso. Hemos platicado con varias personas, entonces nuestro principal cliente que queremos tener es esta persona que está en Harlingen que se quiere venir para acá. Mi esposa y yo tenemos un negocio en México que hacemos wood pallets y crates y actualmente tenemos un año que estamos comprando y vendiendo madera americana. Pues la madera que viene del norte llega a un lugar, se descarga, se carga en un camión mexicano, se cruza para México y se va. Entonces, pues si vamos a tener nuestra propia bodega, queremos también nosotros almacenar adentro de la bodega un poco de madera para estarla mandando hacia México. Esa es otra cosa. Otra cosa, tenemos un amigo que hace casas y quiere poner una carpintería para hacer los muebles de las casas. Entonces quiere poner una carpintería y hay otra persona que potencialmente es muy por encima, quiere tener un taller para hacer soldadura, lo que es welding y todo eso. Entonces todo eso sabemos que se tiene que hacer adentro de las instalaciones, no va a ser nada que esté afuera. Hemos hablado un poco con los vecinos son muy flexibles. La iglesia es propiedad de la iglesia, o sea, es propiedad de todas las personas, entonces se supone que nunca va a cambiar de ser una iglesia. Y actualmente los sábados y los domingos que se juntan, pues ahorita no tenemos una cerca nosotros atrás y como era la cerca de la propiedad era de la iglesia, bueno, no era de la iglesia, era del pastor, porque la iglesia no la puede vender. Como la propiedad del pastor, ahorita se estacionan como 50, 60 carros en nuestra propiedad con permiso de nosotros. Entonces, hay mucho tráfico, no es algo que vaya a ser nuevo y pues la idea también es que estamos en una zona donde sabemos que está creciendo Brownsville y queremos pues estar también ahí, ¿verdad? Hemos hablado una sola vez con la persona dueño de la propiedad del lado que es una propiedad larga. Ahí en los dibujitos, al final les puse ahí como de color azul. Ellos están actualmente, no sé si les entendí bien la vez que lo vi, que estaban arreglando papeles porque quieren vender la propiedad. Entonces, obvio, a nosotros nos interesa mucho y pues esas son nuestras cosas, digo. Entendemos que Light Industrial queda abierto como para muchas cosas, pero principalmente lo que nosotros queremos hacer entra dentro de esa categoría. Bajarlo a RC es algo que nos dejaría muy limitados y pudiéramos perder uno de los futuros clientes que tenemos. Entonces, estamos...
¿Va a haber diferentes negocios adentro del warehouse o más es una warehouse
Que tenemos toda la intención de hacerlo, me comentaba el señor Martín cuando hablamos con él, de hacer, se le llama Flex Space. Queremos hacer una bodega grande y si llega una persona y me dice, yo te quiero rentar tantos pies cuadrados.
No son departamentos, es todo abierto.
Va a ser todo abierto,
Ok, ok.
pero sí vamos a tener la intención de que si alguien, vamos a tener, por decir, lotes que se pueden rentar adentro de la bodega. Si me dices, quiero 2 lotes, yo te divido 2 lotes, ¿verdad? Quiero 3, pues te divido 3. Esa es la principal idea que tenemos para poder aprovecharlo lo más que se pueda, y lo más rápido.
¿Y cuántos pies cuadrados piensa usted
Ay,
tener en este bodega?
no me acuerdo, pero eran, no me puedo acordar ahorita, pero sí recuerdo que la bodega son 130 pies de frente por como 450. Casi. Sí, falta poner las medidas. Ok. No, 120 por 450. Como 55,000 pies, más o menos. ¿Vale?
Dices de la bodega, ¿verdad?
Sí, sí, nada más de la bodega, sí, porque lo que es lo que es la propiedad tiene, creo que son 220,000 pies, una cosa así. Y sí, más o menos estamos estimando que son como 55,000 pies, 60,000 cuando mucho, porque hicimos en el dibujo, pueden ver que el frente tiene un espacio, también para que el frente tenga una fachada un poco más estético y no se vea para atrás otra cosa, ¿verdad? Y pues también queremos aprovechar que tenemos el aeropuerto enfrente, estamos muy cerca de muchas de las bodegas que están adentro y en el área del aeropuerto, y pensamos que es una buena opción. Más aún, más al lado, todas las propiedades, ahí no se ve, pero ahí hay muchas propiedades donde estacionan trailers. De hecho, ahí hay uno que dice Construction LLC, luego Auto Service. O sea, ya hay otros negocios que se hacen ahí que también están, algunos parece estar ahí, también de buen tamaño.
So also the noise basically says the trucks coming and going.
No queremos tener muchos camiones. Las personas, por ejemplo, lo que viene siendo la madera, probablemente sea un camión por semana, que eso es lo que normalmente estamos haciendo. Los otros sí son un poco más, a lo mejor son 2, 3 camiones que entrarían, pero ellos tienen que entrar, descargar y no se van a quedar ahí nunca. Y las propiedades, lo que son las propiedades residenciales, están pegadas hacia el otro lado, no al lado de la propiedad.
Any other questions?
A question for Martin. Is there any other warehouses, Martin, adjacent to this or anywhere all the way to 511?
There are warehousing businesses that are outside of the viewport or outside of this image, and also some concentrating on, like, for example, on Vermilion, on the southern frontage of Boca Chica. There are several warehouses there as well.
Is there also some homes around those warehouses too?
There are a minimal amount of homes, yes. And just to point out, we did meet with the developers or the property owners in several occasions. Because it is a non-residential development, they would be required to residential adjacency requirements. And I believe that's why on the render, they show quite a bit of space on the sides, because they have to be at least 40 feet from the property lines, which would be the lateral property lines as well as the rear. And they would also have to have the masonry wall.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
So how tall does that wall, that fence need to be, the
It's
masonry?
6 to 8 feet as per ordinance. It's on the sides abutting the residential uses. So basically it would be on the 2 sides and the rear. Right, the front, it's open.
And so when you say 6 to 8 feet,
Right.
who decides whether it's 6, 7, or 8 feet?
So the ordinance gives a leeway or administrative discretion, depending, let's say, when they submit a site plan review of their business model, if staff sees that it would be wiser to have something of 8 feet, then we would request.
In this
They-
case, I would think that we would like for it to be 8 feet.
Actualmente una de las propiedades ya tiene todo lo que es, o sea, lo que es la mitad del lado west, la propiedad que está, la propiedad que es, la primera propiedad que se ve que es una casa y luego tiene como una bodeguita atrás, toda esa propiedad tiene la barda de masonry, o sea, ya está todo de cemento eso. Entonces sí, sería continuar hasta atrás.
So if we approve this as a regional corridor zoning, then he can do what he wants to do?
No, no, and I believe that's what he was mentioning. A regional center would limit them. I believe they're wanting to stick to a line.
So the only way he can do what he wants to do is light industrial.
I didn't catch that, Madam Chair. You said what now?
I was asking if we down the zoning to regional corridor, could he still do what he wants to do there? And Martin says that'll limit him. He won't be able to do everything that he wants to do under that zoning. So what he wants to do, it'd have to be light industrial.
Well, if it's gonna have if the logistical component is gonna be, let's say, on the higher side, then yeah, it would need to be a line. Now, if it's going to be, let's say, warehousing with, a commercial component where there's not gonna be that much logistics other than the normal, like an example, HEB, that they do have trucks coming in and out all day because they're delivering for the operations of the business. That is just considered an accessory operation to the business model. So that would be allowed. But if it's something where trailers are gonna stay overnight and they're gonna be waiting for, let's say, import-export document, they have to be waiting and loading and unloading, then that would definitely trigger into the industrialized zone.
You wanted to have like a soldering?
Welding.
Welding, is that?
Right, so all of those uses that seem industrialized, like the carpentry, like the welding, they are allowed as long as everything is maintained indoors. Or even a mechanic shop. If the use goes, to an extent unseen, to where you can't even tell that these exist, and this, an example that I'll give is the plaza where Tesla's currently located. That particular location is a warehouse that was approved as flex space because everything is done within. So you can't see from the outside, but inside they have a mechanic shop for Tesla, and they also have Body Works next door for vehicles. So everything, since it's done indoors, if there's, let's say, no vehicle parts or bulk inventory on display, that's allowed.
And that's regional corridor.
That would be regional corridor, yes.
So why couldn't that apply here?
Well, it would be up to them and the commission.
I think the only thing that gives me, that would give me heartburn, Martin, would be, I think of warehousing, I think of issues right now going on with fuel trucks. They call them pipas. So I know there's major problems right now. The state's looking at what's happening. Just wonder if there's any fuel trucks going around the property or anything, trying to avoid any situations like Millwhite. Are you taking a look at that?
Well, in this particular situation, comparing it to Millwhite has, the main problem is the bulk storage of the raw material, outside in the open. And the fact that it's getting blown to other properties. Their property is owned alive, but in their particular situation, it doesn't mean that that particular business model or what they're doing is allowed. That's basically the reason why there's, the city has a problem with it, because they're doing it without a permit or actually being allowed under the zoning designation that they have. Here, because, and let's say with Millwhite, the reason why perhaps it was not caught by the city until the residents started complaining was it's a property that has been operating since '50s.
Right, they were there way before the neighborhoods.
Right. So in this case, since it's something new, they have to, all our rules are tailored to address these situations before they even happen. That
So-
would be the main difference.
So I want to make sure that I understand that if we approve it under an RC, as long as he does flex space where everything's inside, then he can do what he wants, what he's planning.
Potentially, but it would be up to their business model. Yes, everything would have to be kept inside. No bulk display of material.
Ah,
Okay.
Las personas con las que estamos tratando, actualmente todo se va a hacer adentro, no va a haber nada de acción afuera. Por eso cuando él también nos sugirió el RC, dijimos, si está bien, lo único que queremos, la realidad es que no sabemos si, por ejemplo, nuestro cliente potencial que quiere hacer logística, cuando él llegue a sacar un permiso para poner su negocio, que sí se le pueda dar o que se le niegue, perder pues, casi la mitad de lo que tenemos con ellos. Esa es la única desventaja que vemos si no se hace el aire industrial, ¿verdad? Esa es la única.
¿No tiene planes de tener un camiones de gasolina o diésel?
No, eso
Nada de eso.
no. Venimos, digo, yo tengo mi negocio en Matamoros y sabemos que eso es lo peor. Hemos visto cosas muy malas con eso y no queremos tener eso ahí.
And just to address your concern, that particular storage wouldn't be allowed because LI doesn't allow flammable or
Chemical.
Toxic.
any sort of material that is flammable, volatile, or noxious in fume. Yes, it would require a high industrial.
High industry.
Inside the warehouse
Eh,
or on the property?
on the property.
Okay. I'm going to open up this to public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this topic?
So move to close public hearing.
We have a first motion to close public hearing. Do I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, just for the record, my name is Carlos Hinojosa and my wife is Jasmine Peña.
Thank you.
Entonces, light industrial es para un cliente y quiere hacer su negocio.
Principalmente es un cliente que tiene una bodega en Harlingen, él vive en Bronzeville y se quiere traer su negocio para acá.
Pero ¿qué está moviendo él?
Mueven
Químicos o-
plástico para inyección, para las máquinas para hacer todo lo que es plástico.
ok.
Principalmente es plástico. Sí, es materia prima, es plástico. Y creo que son plásticos, le llaman resinas, pero son plásticos como bolitas, son cajas. Plásticos, sí.
No dangerous chemicals either.
No, nada químico. Bueno, plásticos, son plásticos nada más. Es su principal. Bueno, son plásticos y rara vez cosas de metal, moldes pequeños para lo mismo de las máquinas de
So
inyección.
it's just a little plastic balls for molding.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe fumes with plastic. Oh. Okay, so remind us what the recommendation of the department is?
What's that?
Remind me what the recommendation from the department is?
Oh, the original was denial under LI.
Denial of LI.
Yes.
So they're here to petition us for zoning for light industrial, or we can choose to change it to approve it as regional corridor. What's the wish of the commission?
I move we go ahead with light industrial. There's nothing flammable, and everything's gonna be kept inside. I don't see nothing wrong with it being light industrial. As long as they meet what the city requires, I'm okay with that.
I got a question. So how does this, what is the city's responsibility to make sure that there's nothing flammable, that there's no, hazardous materials, just being adjacent to those homes? What's the city responsibility in making sure that doesn't happen?
Well, it's part of the site review process. So we basically, they not only submit their site plan, but they also have to submit their explanation of what they have to do. And they have to tell us what's going to be stored. And I'm not going to say it cannot happen, because it has happened, for example, with the example that you give, let's say with Mill White or other companies that are in violation. The possibility always exists that they'll violate the rule. But as soon as we find out, then the citations will begin. And eventually, if need be, then litigation.
But then that comes at a cost to everybody involved, and the city does not have enough inspectors to go around checking all those kind of things, I would imagine.
Right, so basically the city will act on a complaint basis. It is rare that, because of the limited amount
Staff.
of staff, it is rare the occasion that, let's say, someone's driving by at the precise moment where a violation.
So we have a motion on the table
Motions to
to
go L1?
approve, to approve LI zoning. Gentlemen?
I don't mind seconding the motion. I just want to be sure that I don't even know if I'm satisfied with the city's efforts to be able to enforce those things, because
Right.
Millwhite got to where it got for some reason, and then until litigation got there, but months that was happening until, I just don't know what took so long.
My sentiments are the same. It does matter to me about the hazmat. But knowing that, the city needs to grow, and as you well know, we do need more warehousing space in Brownsville for more industry to come into Brownsville. Everything's going to be kept inside. And we do have the process for investigators to go check out if there's a complaint. We need to continue. So I'm just making the motion that we go with light industrial, unless you think otherwise.
Yeah, and once again, light industrial is what you need?
Yes, for our potential client that we have in Arlington. And that's why, just because of that, because what we know is that there's not enough warehouses in Brownsville to make logistics movements. And principalmente todo lo que es de logística que conocemos. Yo he tenido la oportunidad de andar en varias bodegas de aquí. Nunca hay nada inflamable. Siempre son fierros, plásticos, piezas, pero no hay inflamable, que es el concern. No es algo que alguien quiera tener adentro de una bodega.
¿Tienes otras bodegas aquí en Brownsville con hace lo mismo?
No, tengo en Matamoros. En Matamoros tenemos, pero nada más guardamos metal, que son fierros. y madera. Lo que guardamos, fierros y madera. Son tubos muy grandes que se utilizan para la minería y eso es lo que guardamos en México.
¿Esa propiedad ahorita es tuya?
Sí.
No checaste con GPIX y ahí había una propiedad que puedas aprovechar, la puedes construir ahí en el parque de ellos, parque industrial.
No lo buscamos y la verdad es que es la primera vez que estamos tratando de hacer esto. Esa propiedad la compramos hasta cierto punto en una oferta. Sí, hicimos un trato con el dueño, entonces para nosotros fue una buena oferta y es por eso que compramos esa propiedad y personalmente me gusta mucho todo lo que está pasando con SpaceX y quiero estar cerca de ahí, quiero buscar la manera de cómo tratar de meternos un poquito, aunque sea rentar un espacio para ellos, para algo, personalmente, pues.
Martin, a couple of months ago, we had 30 or 40 acres of a new subdivision that was coming up in this area. Do you remember where that was? I think it may be a little east of this. On Vermillion?
I think it was on
Oh,
Vermillion, wasn't it,
yes,
behind El Jardín?
On the corner of Vermillion and Boca Chica.
How far is that from here?
Maybe,
Okay, it's
Mile.
not really close.
No.
Okay. Okay. We can always go RC if you feel more comfortable with that.
Martin, if we do go RC, what will he not be able to do compared to what he wants to do now?
The plastics.
mainly the logistics component. If the client has an intention of having more in and out traffic, then that's what's gonna get hindered. Yeah.
Sorry, more in and out traffic from trailers,
And potential
hazardous material.
waiting of trucks on the property.
And going RC will require less traffic?
Less traffic because it's just intended to, as mentioned, the logistics portion is a lot less because it's considered an accessory to the operations of the business model. Going back to the example of HEB, it's not an industrial property, but regardless, there's always trucks going in and out to provide the inventory to continue the operations of the business.
I guess what we're trying to figure out here is it the traffic or the material that has your concern? The material.
Material same, yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, I assume that traffic's only gonna get worse, right? Because SpaceX expanding, there's a lot happening that way. So I assume it's gonna get a lot busier than it is now, but what's stored is what concerns me the most.
So it's more the material.
Yeah,
Yeah, because potentially, right, he wants to get another client in there, that client he has the means to really put whatever he wants at that point in there, right?
with the other one.
I know that's not his intentions right now, yeah. But that's the only thing that triggers me. But
And just to point out, even if you give them RC, the possibility of violating the rules established by that zoning district also exists.
Yeah.
Look at it that way. I mean, whether it be light industrial or regional center, commercial corridor, each zoning designation has its own rules, and parameters of what is allowed and what's not allowed. But as in any case, because we see it all the time, I mean, we've had situations where even in a commercial zoning, they're carrying out an industrial use without a permit or without being allowed.
Well, even if we did RC, he could possibly come back to the board and ask for a specific, excuse me, a specific use permit. No?
No, because a specific use permit, it's not intended to be a loophole on the rules that are established. It's just the code only lists a particular amount of uses that require a specific use permit. For example, car lots, because historically, we always receive complaints about car lots. And now, well, unfortunately, because of examples like Millwhite, recently we started receiving complaints about industrialized facilities.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hinojosa, it's taking so long, but while we want the city of Brownsville to prosper and we want to welcome new business, we also have to take care of our citizens. We have a motion to approve LI.
So there's no way to guarantee safeguard for those people there at this time. And we got our rules, but they can be broken.
Right. And like I said, just to clarify, it'll apply to any zoning district.
Yeah.
They can be broken at any time. However, LI does limit you to not have flammable, volatile, or noxious, or hazardous material.
Did we have a similar request not too long ago, several months ago, within the last 6 months that we?
There was one on FM 511.
Well, no, there was one close by on Minnesota and South Padre Island Highway.
Yes.
But that one in particular, it was in a densely populated area, and everything was residential. Here, the difference is that that the density of homes is more sparse. There's light industrial across, and there's some commercial scattered. But
And other work.
That would be the only difference.
And there are other warehouses along the north side of Boca Chica in that area.
Your client, excuse me, your client, he wants to come to Brownsville, so he's already storing this material in Harlingen?
Yeah.
The same material?
Yeah,
And that's the same material that he's gonna be storing here?
Yeah, yeah. He will probably try to get more business, right? I mean, everybody wants to make more business.
Wanna
So-
grow.
But maybe he's in an
But-
industrial area in Harlingen.
Yeah, but he doesn't, I mean, for what I've known, he has never moved any flammable materials or something like that, noxious or something.
But that's that one client, but you still have the warehouse that can be expanded to other clients
Yes.
as well.
I'll remind you, we are advisory board, and Mr. and Mrs. Hinojosa will still have to go to the full
Sí.
commission.
I hope you understand our concerns, the
Perfectamente.
well-being and healthcare of the neighbors. And plastic is considered a flammable item. So I could see my colleagues' concerns about this, because if anything happens, there are residential areas. I mean, it is in a residential area. We're all for growth. We're all for growth of the city of Brownsville, but this one is, I hope you understand.
Entiendo perfectamente bien. No hay problema y
Yeah, I'm just trying to avoid highly flammable,
Right.
highly combustible
I agree with you.
material. And whatever commodity it is what scares me, because I've heard some horror stories David, your motion was what?
My motion was to go ahead and change the rezoning from residential estates to light industrial.
L1? I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa.
Thank you, Mr.
Muchas
Mendoza.
gracias.
Public hearing and action on ordinance number 2024-235.108 to amend the Unified Development Code, UDC Article 4 zoning regulations, Section 4.6 zoning development standards by incorporating subsection 4.6.13 master plan developments and dealing with related matters.
Very quickly, I'll get you guys out of here. The next two items are just text amendments that are being proposed to the UDC. Recently, I'm pretty sure everyone's aware, master plan communities have become a trend where, well, master plan communities, they're correct, as mentioned here on the slide, they're characterized by large-scale and comprehensive design. They're comprised of self-contained neighborhoods and diverse land uses to promote convenience and accessibility all within the community. They're designed to maintain a cohesive design aesthetic and accommodate various architectural styles, lot sizes and home sizes, as well as price ranges. And so one thing that we have found that has been cumbersome for some developers, well, actually, majority dealing with this type of development is that for every section, they have to do a rezone. They have to do a zoning case to accommodate, let's say, a commercial use within that master plan community, or they have to, because they're trying to, let's say, implement an innovative design, for example, Madeira, that all their streets or all their roadways are going to be meandering or curved. Basically, that creates narrow lots in the front and wider lots towards the rear because of the curvatures. And so that creates issues with the currently established zoning parameters because sometimes they don't comply with setbacks or they have to do tailored or they require more tailored zoning or design requirements for their development. And so to alleviate that burden, we are proposing of establishing a mechanism where we can, by incorporating a section within the UDC, that will adopt a particular plan of a master plan community as a design manual. So basically, anyone can just go in and reference that manual to see the design specifications of the lots, architectural specifications, amenities of the property, or the development, and how everything should work in cohesion. And so this would be the section that would be incorporated into the Unified Development Code. And basically, this is just the first portion. The first one that would be incorporated, if approved, would be the design manual for the Madeira Master Plan Community. And that way they don't have to be coming back every single time to do, let's say, a zoning change or a change here, a change there to accommodate their use. Right now we have potentially one in the very near future called the Estrella Development by Rhodes. And then there's another two that are also being proposed. Not as concrete yet as Rhodes, but definitely it is still in the future. And so we just want to be proactive and do this for developers to facilitate and just bring more development into the city.
Okay.
And so this is how it would look like every time, let's say, right now, what's being proposed is including Madera Master Plan Community within this section. Let's say in 6 months from now, Estrella Development comes in and they propose theirs, it would be presented again. And once it's adopted, then that particular development would go by the design manual that was adopted for that subdivision or for that master plan community. Well, and this is just an example of the different uses and the lot configurations of the first phases of Madeira. So staff does recommend the approval of this ordinance. Any questions?
Are you opening public hearing for this?
Do we have to open public
Yes,
hearing for this?
yes, for Texas amendments as well.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this topic?
Make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
We have first and second motion to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second motion to approve ordinance number 2024-235.108. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Public hearing and action on ordinance number 2024-235.109 to amend the Unified Development Code, UDC Article 4 zoning regulations, Section 4.2.1.c, conditions of approval and decision-making criteria by repealing subsection 3 and dealing with related matters.
So this text amendment is for a question that has been ongoing for a very long time. Whenever we bring zoning cases to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Commission. And the question is always, can we condition zoning cases? And the answer is no. The state law doesn't allow the conditioning of zoning cases because it can be seen as arbitrary or it can be seen as unfair to property owners because basically you're conditioning one and you're not conditioning the other. So there was, due to past and incorrect practice before the UDC was adopted, there was a section that was in the UDC that was incorporated, which stated that conditions were permitted on zoning atlas amendments. And we're just bringing this to the board to basically repeal the section to be in line with what state law says and good zoning procedure practice across the state. And by doing so, we would be promoting transparency, promoting due process, promoting organized development, and as mentioned, we would be aligning our zoning procedures with the good practice across the state and what state law intends to establish. And so the applicability would be to all zoning atlas amendments. And this is the existing text in the UDC. The section that would be repealed is number 3, basically saying that zoning atlas amendments would be are permitted to have conditions. By repealing it, that would go away and would be in line with state regulations. And so staff recommends the approval of this text amendment.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Martin, who brought this over to make these changes?
Well, on the previous city commission that we had, there was confusion as to whether or not conditions could be applied or not. City council at that meeting confirmed that conditioning is not allowed, and they pointed out that to be consistent with the message and with state law, it would be best to remove this.
Any other questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this topic?
Make a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
We have a first and a second motion to close public hearing. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-235 dot 109.
Second.
We have a first and second motion to approve. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
To adjourn?
Second.
We have a first and second motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vámonos.
Motion carries. 6:50 PM. Thank you, everyone, for being here.